This video. I went to Alaska and my friend Kizzy and I took a jet boat trip on the Saltitna River. It starts out on the Talkeetna River and then we head up the Saltitna River. This was an epic trip. I couldn't get all of the footage down, and what you're going to see is about half of the total trip because at the very end of the video, we were in some rapids and I started getting seasick and had to stop filming as quickly as I could once I sat back down. But anyway, I really appreciate you taking the time and watching my video. Enjoy and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.
I'm really wondering why no bananas?
On the door there's a no banana sign. We find that amusing.
At least Kizzy finds it amusing. And
so there's the bridge that we crossed yesterday, and this is part of the river system that we're going to be going on. And I say part because I think we make a turn somewhere way up the river. So here we are getting ready to get on this boat, and my understanding these are 1,000 horsepower motors. I don't know if it's one or two, but there we go. We'll be back. Well, here's a train returning trip. And here they've moved the boat over to the dock. We're getting ready to get on the boat. Four engines. That's heavy. Alright, we're getting ready to get on. I'm going to stop and I'll pick up after we get on the boat.
It's a floating dock. It wobbles.
Are you filming?
Yep.
Are you getting all your wobbles, or is the
I don't know.
Camera?
We'll find out, won't we? Just don't drop it, right?
Those are pretty good wobbles. I need to put Cordelia on one of those. Get to stay in Cordelia's. Look out the window.
Go ahead, ladies first. We'll try that.
I'm still so excited. Nothing's changed.
next to the old town site of Curry, Alaska. And before the spot was known as Curry, Alaska, it was known as Dead Horse Hill. It was a mining supply camp that was taking care of the miners that were passing through the area. They had 1915. In 1920, this was as far north as the railroad was built. This became a major staging point for construction north of here, especially for the Susitna Bridge that we're going to pass underneath a few miles up the river. And when the railroad was completed in 1923, knowing that their coal-driven steam engines couldn't make it from Seward to Fairbanks in a single day without having to restock their coal cars, the railroad planned for an overnight stay for their guests. Here at the river's edge, they built the Grand Curry Hotel. Now, this hotel was considered the nicest hotel north of Seattle. It had hot and cold running water in every room, which was a huge deal in Alaska in those days. They had a 3-hole golf course here. There were tennis courts. There was a heated swimming pool. A suspension bridge that spanned the Susit. Folks could hike across the bridge, then hike up to the top of Curry Ridge, and at 2,600 feet, get views of the Alaska Range on the other side. They built a gazebo up there that still stands to this day. That gazebo they called the Regal Vista. They had a big creamery here, which was encouraging folks living along the rail to try their hand at raising dairy cows. All the milk was brought up here and processed. And then they had a massive laundry service here where even the hospital in Anchorage would send their linens by rail to get washed and pressed and sent back. Now, what happened to the old hotel? On April 9 in 1957, it burned to the ground. And at that time, the railroad had just switched over to diesel-run engines, which were faster and more efficient. They had built lodging in the Denali area, so they felt there's no real need to rebuild. With the hotel gone, the rest of the small community of Curry just died out over the years. The remaining buildings that were here were dismantled and moved south on the Alaska Railroad. And if you've been in Talkeetna and visited our pizzeria, Mountain High Pizza Pie, originally that structure stood here in Curry, Alaska. You see some remnants from the old hotel. You see the boilers out to our right. That's how they heated the hotel. Those were converted from old steam engines. See some scrap metal just down below us. The railroad's ideal of cleanup in those days was just to bulldoze everything towards the water. And we offer a trip that we call the River Rail and Trail, where our guests will get on the Flagstaff train that I told you about. They'll ride up with one of our guides. Holly gets to do this once a week where they come up here and they do a quick walk around. Not a whole lot to look up here any longer, but they meet one of our boats and ride the jet boat back to Talkeetna. And over the years with the erosion, we found a lot of really neat stuff from the hotel and the riverbanks. Pieces of old china, old bottles. We found an old gun in there. Some of the old lamps and lanterns. Really neat to kind of dig through as the bank starts to erode. And we have a book about this area that was put together by the curator of the Trapper Creek Museum, Ken Marsh. Collected a lot of information from this era, and we're going to pass that around. You can see on the cover there just how different it looked when the hotel was here. And Holly has had the opportunity to meet a few really neat people on her trip up to Curry, so I'm going to let her tell you all about it.
Alright, so River Rail and Trail is a unique opportunity to help people see a little bit of our past here in Alaska, and especially with the railroad. And at the beginning of the summer, I was doing the trip, and there was a lady on my trip that actually lived in Curry when she was 11 years old. And it was she and her brother were the only kids in Curry at the time. They didn't have the schoolhouse yet. And so it was so neat to be able to walk through the grounds with her and just kind of have little flashbacks of history, and she just remembered certain things. And after a while I asked her, I said, well, Miss Nancy, I said, you and your brother were the only kids, and back then adults were working all the time. They weren't trying to entertain kids. I said, what did you and your brother do for fun? How did you entertain yourselves? And she said, well, let me tell you, me and my brother would sneak into Mama's purse and we'd steal cigarettes. And we'd go smoke them on the suspension
our way. Before we go up inside the Whitewater, I'm going to make a stop, and I'm going to tell you some of the history of Devil's Canyon. Also talk about safety while we're up inside the Whitewater.
The battery is, yeah, it's like this, and it'll stay valid.
inside the Whitewater, I want to tell you a little bit of the history of Devil's Canyon. Also talk about safety while we're up inside the Whitewater. Now, Devil's Canyon is considered some of the roughest whitewater in the world. The kayakers consider it the Mount Everest of kayaking here in Alaska. And the canyon itself is 11 miles long. In that 11 miles, the river that was almost a half-mile wide spots as we were coming up gets choked down. It averages somewhere between 90 and 100 feet. The gradient is also steeper in Devil's Canyon. I mentioned that every mile that we've come up the river, we gained almost 10 feet in elevation, so over 600 feet to this point. In Devil's Canyon, the gradient is about twice as steep, more like 18 to 20 feet per mile, so that water gets choked down, has a steeper gradient. Water speeds can be excess of 25 miles per hour. Some of the standing waves in the rapids that the hydraulics create can be as high as 15 to 20 feet. People started kayaking Devil's Canyon in the early 1970s, but it wasn't until 1979 before para-kayakers made it all the way through the rapids without having to portage or carry their kayaks up and around some of the major sets of rapids. While we're sitting here, we're going to see our sister boat, which left about half-town before us, come out of the canyon. So keep an eye out for that. They did not go up that 11 miles, and I'll tell you why here in a second. We're just going to get to the lower section of Devil's Canyon. Now, kayakers, when they're coming down the first series of rapids, make sure you find your seat that way. They're almost ready to get out of there. We'll be in there anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, okay? Coming out is going to be very rough. And when you're around my control area, maintain 3 points of contact at all times. That's your 2 feet on the ground, one hand holding onto something. When you sit on the second step, Holly's going to demo for you. When you stand to get up, your hand hold is here, your hand hold is here. My steering on my right side is not for something for you to grab onto. Okay? My control tower on my left side, please do not grab onto that. I get a feel for what the boat's doing by sitting in my seat, so please don't hold onto or lean on my seat. Makes me feel like the boat's doing something that it shouldn't. Yeah. And I think it goes without saying, now is not the time to use the bathroom.
for watching. I cannot believe how long we sat in those rapids. And watching the GoPro and the tiny little screen that wasn't swaying with the boat actually made me sick. So once I sat down, I had to stop filming. But for the last part, on our way back, we did catch a bear that was swimming across the river. So I need to show this footage that was filmed by a passenger on the boat that was sent to me. And so this is, consider this bonus footage. Thank you.
So if this bear gets out, it's not going to stick around very long. But this is awesome. I'll only get maybe 4 or 5 black bears, catch them swim in the river all year long. This is incredible.